Just west of Pendleton, McKay Creek meets the Umatilla River. For 30 years, fish were blocked out of the creek by what's called an adult weir. But in July 2023, half of the weir was taken down, opening it up to migrating fish for the first time in 3 decades. This is the story of the McKay Creek comeback. In 1927, the McKay Creek Dam went in 6 miles upstream to make a reservoir for irrigation.
Historically, the McKay Creek subbasin in the Umatilla hosted multiple species of fish, both anadromous and residential.
Anadromous meaning that those fish are born in fresh water, rear for 1 to 3 years, and then migrate out of the fresh water back to the ocean.
But since the dam was built in 1927, those anadromous runs of species were extirpated from the system. So that was the spring chinook, fall chinook, coho, summer steelhead, Pacific lamprey. And we have a rich traditional and oral history of tribal use within the basin.
Salmon have been an integral part of tribal culture since time immemorial. But the dam caused a major habitat loss for the fish. And in the early 90s, the area was designated as a critical habitat, and some fish were put on the endangered species list. Eventually, the government mandated that the dam spill enough water to at least protect the juvenile fish. As the creek filled back up, the cool water attracted salmon that were actually supposed to continue for miles up the Umatilla River. So, in 1995, the weir was installed to stop them from taking a wrong turn. And in 2022, they did a study to see if salmon could survive in those lower 6 miles of McKay Creek.
We had an initial study where we released 30 pair of coho just to investigate whether or not they would be able to successfully spawn within this lower portion of McKay Creek. With that, we went out and performed spawning ground surveys and were able to enumerate 15 reds that year. So we were able to determine that it was a viable option to get fish in here. You can think of a red as a fish nest. It's where they deposit their eggs. What the fish do is they'll turn on their sides and use their caudal fin, that's their tail fin, to push the gravel out, and they'll create kind of a bowl. Then the female will deposit her eggs in that and then go back and fan gravel again and cover that up. So just below us is where we actually were able to observe fry. So success out of those reds.
So it's amazing to see all of that habitat being utilized and how quickly fish will recolonize when you allow them to do so.
So they decided to open the weir, and just 7 months later, they counted 72 reds, marking the first time in 30 years that migrating salmon found their way into McKay Creek to spawn.
Up above us past this point, there's 108 miles of habitat and 26 stream miles that would be available to those anadromous fish. So it's a really big deal to get passage over this, especially being 25% of the overall steelhead habitat in the Umatilla Basin.
Making a safe passage through the dam is a complicated engineering challenge, but if it can be solved, there's a vast natural habitat waiting behind it.
So this is the area and the type of habitat we're hoping to get these fish into. We like to refer to it as turnkey habitat. This is fantastic habitat for these fish. These fish that are produced in these mid-Columbia tributaries support fisheries in the lower Columbia River. They support ocean fisheries, Alaska fisheries, Washington fisheries, but we're restoring processes. In our tribal culture, our first foods and our connection to the landscape and those first foods within it is something that we're also trying to restore. These type of collaborations between tribal, state, and federal agencies that create success, immediate success, will always be important and will continue to be important into the future. Yeah, hopefully someday we'll be out here fishing for salmon and steelhead together.
Future generations that can do so too. It's very important that that happens.
This is Toby Solvang with Apple Valley News Now.